Have you wondered about living elsewhere in your retirement? Well, we have almost daily. No, it's not a simple decision, especially when two people are involved.
Hi, this is
Gil
and Gene of Retire There, a podcast about retirement destinations. We live in Brooklyn, New York. Having grown up and worked in this area of the country, we're hoping to relocate when we're both retired. For us, it's the weather, the chaos, the noise, and the yearning to be near nature and not within 3 feet of human beings.
That's right. In February 2020, we embarked on our journey to find that special place. We spent a week in Winter Park, Florida, which is beautiful, but something said it wasn't for us. As we were planning for the next trip, the pandemic arrived. Gene then gave birth.
I gave birth?
To this podcast. With so many baby boomers retiring, many must be relocating. Why not connect with and learn from them?
Here's a little background about us.
I'm Asian, born in Brazil, and grew up in Flatbush, Brooklyn. I'm an engineer turned attorney turned podcaster. I recently retired from a university career practicing higher education law. I love the academic environment, but it was time to do something else. I no longer have to set an alarm, drive in BQE traffic, or work with people who don't always share the same principles. Oh, did I just say that? You bet I did. I traded all that in to binge crime dramas into the wee hours, just a little bit, to develop the podcast, to volunteer, practice metalsmithing, tackle our possessions. No regrets so far. Gene?
I'm not Asian, and as Gil mentioned, I'm not retired. I'm just plain tired.
Oh.
Born and raised in Long Island, New York, a place I always wanted to leave. I'm a law librarian working in a court who loves his job, but we're retired by the time we select our ideal location. We will be speaking to folks from across the street to across the globe who have moved to their dream venues and more. So please stay tuned, and remember, if you know anyone who has moved anywhere for retirement, let us know.
Thank you. Fala Português, Gene? Do you know what that means?
Do I know what that means? I can barely speak English. What do you think?
Okay. Well, it means do you speak Portuguese? And that's basically all I know from my childhood in Brazil. Today, we chat with Rosemary Bointon about retiring to the metropolitan city of Lisbon, Portugal, with her husband, Ian Cole, from the United Kingdom. Lisbon is the capital and the largest city of Portugal. It is the oldest city in Western Europe and one of the oldest cities in the world. Lisbon was almost totally destroyed by an earthquake in 1755, taking between 30 to 40,000 lives of an estimated population of 200 to 275,000 residents. The earthquake destroyed 85% of the city's structures. Amazingly, Lisbon was rebuilt within a few years, only a few years. The city has one of the mildest climates in Europe and is sunny throughout the year, with an annual average of 2,900 to 3,300 hours of sunshine.
You must love that, Gil.
Yeah, I know. And someone's sitting there counting those hours. In Lisbon, you are literally walking on carpets of stone. Black and white, whimsically patterned stones adorn the sidewalks and public squares all over. Known as Portuguese pavements, these public pieces of art has been around since the 15th century. One of the most popular Lisbon attractions is a tram. Lisbon trams were originally called Americanos, as they were originally imported from the United States. The most popular sport in Portugal is football, or soccer. My parents would say in Brazil, Pele, don't forget him. With an astounding 214 clubs registered in the Football Association of Lisbon. Lisbon is also known as having the oldest operating and smallest bookstores in the world. Now I'm going to mangle the language, but Livraria Bertrand was founded in 1732, and Livraria São Cristóvão measures just 4 square meters and has more than 3,000 books in Portuguese, Spanish, English, Italian, Chinese, and Japanese. Inside the store, only one person can fit, and she has to move sideways. Well, that is fascinating. How does one person get through all those books? Okay, and now a little bit about our guests.
Rosemary Bointon was born and raised in Britain. She was born on the south coast by the sea near Bournemouth. She went to primary school in Bournemouth and met an hour-long bus journey. I thought she was going to say she walked an hour uphill and back was an hour uphill. But anyway.
Okay.
From there, she attended Oxford University and eventually trained as a lawyer. She practiced law the majority of her employed life. She had a strong desire to travel and ended up living in 13 different countries. Wow. She contends it certainly made life as a lawyer a lot more interesting and fun. When can life as a lawyer be fun? Who are we kidding, Rosemary?
All right, Gene, that is your personal opinion, and I think we should avoid that.
Okay. How many happy lawyers you know, Gil?
How many lawyers does it take to turn on a light bulb?
Okay.
All right. We will not go there. All right.
Currently, Rosemary's work consists of writing and running her property business in the UK. That must be interesting, running her business in another country.
Wow.
Her interests include writing, especially about longevity, for which she has a blog. It's longlifefunlife.com. Learning languages. Currently, she's learning Portuguese. She also loves sailing, and she and her husband have a boat. But for various reasons, they haven't been able to sail it for the last couple of years. They sailed it from where they bought it in Canada to the Mediterranean. Its latest adventure was when it got struck by lightning on its way to a repair yard in Italy. She's very happy she wasn't on that trip.
Incidentally, Rosemary met her husband, Ian Cole, in Budapest, Hungary.
Wow.
No surprise there, Gene. I just met you in New Jersey. Okay.
Same thing.
Ian, who's unable to join us today, hails from Colchester, England. He worked in London for many years as a stockbroker and then set up a new business with a partner in Eastern Europe. More recently, he has been trying to set up a renewable energy business in Croatia, so he spends his time doing financial models and raising money for the projects. The couple purchased a house in Lisbon 2 years ago, but have only just started renovating it. They say it feels like a huge undertaking. Oh, I'll bet. It currently has a big hole in the roof.
What is this with these holes in the roofs?
Yeah.
We had another one that had originally a straw roof. And then when they bought it, it had no roof.
Well, COVID has had a big effect on life in Lisbon. Well, Rosemary, welcome to Retire There. I am so excited to have you join our podcast. We met on Twitter. You have wonderful daily tips about walking, some of which I am trying to employ. So please tell us what led you and Ian to Lisbon.
It was a really difficult decision when we were thinking about where we were going to live. In fact, it was the most difficult thing about retiring was because we lived in so many different places. We travelled quite a lot in between doing the living in different places as well. And in fact, I used to commute from Russia to Switzerland because because I was working in Russia. And we had our actual home was in Switzerland, where my husband was then working. So, so where were we going to live? Well, we weren't going to retire to Russia. That wasn't an option.
What was that commute like?
Well, actually, I sort of got used to it. We used to take it in turns to one fortnight I'd go to Switzerland, and then the other fortnight he'd come to Russia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We did it like that.
Okay.
But then there were other times when I lived a lot closer, like I worked in Vienna in Austria, and that only took a couple of hours really to get back to Switzerland.
See, I commute from Brooklyn to Manhattan. She commutes from Russia to Switzerland. Very interesting sounding. Okay. Yes, please.
Well, it was quite different. It's true. Actually, my husband's just walked in. Come and say hello. Just come and say hello, darling.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
My husband. This is
Nice
Gene.
to meet you.
Hi, Gene. Hi, Joe.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you, Ian.
How are you, Ian?
No, very well. Very well. I'm waiting for the local motorcycle gangs to all drive past in dressing Father Christmases.
Our neighbour.
Cool.
We were walking home about 2:15, and our neighbour just down the road, Portuguese neighbour, she called out to us from her balcony and said, my son is going to be a motorcycling Father Christmas this afternoon, and you must come and see it. So I sort of said, well, that was just one part of that. I did that for about 5 years, from Russia. So it was quite a length of time. But anyway, so I knew that I was going to have to retire sooner or later. And so we started thinking about it whilst I was still working in Russia. We loved living in Switzerland, but the problem there was that the exchange rate was quite clear that the Swiss franc was going to go sky high. The UK pound was going to get lower. Right. So I just thought that long term this wasn't going to be a solution for us. So we decided to sell our home in Switzerland, which was a shame, but turned out to be the right decision because given all the events that have happened since. So we did that. And then my son actually lives in France with his family. Oh. And in fact, he's just in the process of becoming a French citizen because of Brexit. So that he has the right to live with his wife and children, who are also French.
Nice. Very nice.
But after Russia, I got sent off to Timor-Leste, which is, as I put it, a small tropical, an adventure in a small tropical island at the end of Indonesia.
Wow.
And, I was sent there on a pro bono job by my firm.
Wow.
And I had an absolutely fantastic time. It was so interesting.
Wow.
But that Timor-Leste had been occupied for 400 years by the Portuguese. And it gained its independence in 1975, but was immediately invaded by the Indonesians, and then only became a separate state in 2002. So it was like the newest world state. I think South Sudan is now the newest one, but it's pretty new state. And so I worked in the legal department of the Ministry of Finance and helped with various projects, including the building of a new port, which is now under construction, which was a really exciting thing to do because you really felt that like you were making a difference to people's lives.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yes, it was. It was great. And it gave us a fondness for the Portuguese because we met so many nice Portuguese people there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so to begin with, we thought, okay, we're going to move to France. And we did. And we thought that what we would do was build a house there.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
And a chalet, because my son lives in the mountains because he's mad on skiing. In fact, he went skiing this morning.
Oh my goodness.
This year. Chalet. Had a really big snowfall.
Oh, nice.
So we lived around the corner from them, which was great because I got to see the grandchildren and much more. In the end, what happened was that we moved there towards the end of 2015. And then in 2016, of course, we got the dreaded Brexit vote. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone
will ever forgive them.
Didn't think that the Brexiteers were going to win, including, of course, the then British Prime Minister. But they did. And, of course, the immediate result of that was that the pound plummeted in value.
Yeah.
And so we had done our calculations of buying a plot of land, and we'd drawn up plans, and we'd got the planning permission from the local authority in France, in the mountains. But the problem was that we then thought we're not going to have enough money to finish this because we've got, you've only got a certain amount that you can spend on a house, right? Yeah. Because you need money for living as well. So we decided to pull out of it because we just thought we might end up, we didn't even know at that point whether we'd be able to live in it because we weren't French.
Right,
We hadn't lived in France for the required amount of time to get residence. Nobody knew what the rules were going to be. We got cold feet. Meantime, we had in fact been spending the winters in France, been spending the summers on our boat, which at that time we kept in Croatia.
Of course.
But we'd had it in Croatia for a long time, and we thought that we'd like to. My original plan was that we'd once we got the house sorted out, that we would then embark upon a journey around the Mediterranean in the boat. But that didn't happen just because we didn't know where we were going to live. So we started looking around about where we would live, and we decided that because we'd really liked the Portuguese people that we'd met in Timor-Leste. See, there was a purpose to telling you about that, was that we'd go and have a look and see where we could put our boat in Portugal. So we came to Lisbon, and we looked at all the marinas up and down the coast in different places, and to think, and while we were here, we had such a nice time and we so enjoyed it. We thought, well, hang on a minute, why don't we leave the boat somewhere else and we'll move here? And so that's what we did eventually, because in addition to actually having lots of sailing facilities here, they also have extremely favourable ways of being able to get residency, and even if you're not an EU citizen.
Interesting.
So it's actually easier to become a resident of Portugal than it is of other EU states.
Okay.
So we decided that we would switch allegiance, and we left France, and much as we'd loved it, and we came over here, and then we rented a place for a little while, and in fact just a studio flat to begin with. And we sort of looked around and got ourselves a bit settled and decided where we were going to live. So then we bought a house. A couple of things happened. One was that, in fact, my brother died in the UK, so I had to go back to the UK and sort out his house there, which had been our original family home. So that took some time, some months. After that, we came back, and in fact, I fell quite ill. I got this horrible thing, a virus, which comes from chickenpox, from having had chickenpox as a child. You get shingles, your chest, and I got it. There's a version that you get in your ear.
Oh my goodness!
Which is called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, and I got that, and I got a paralysis on the side of my face, and I damaged my hearing, and my vestibular nerve, which is the one about your balance and so on. And so I had I got carted off to hospital in a Portuguese ambulance, which was quite an experience.
Wow.
And, but the hospital was marvelous. So that, I know that your listeners are interested in healthcare, and I have to say that I couldn't have been better treated than I was under the Portuguese, just the ordinary public health system because it was an emergency.
Okay.
They thought I could have. I thought I had a stroke when I woke up and couldn't move my face.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But as you can see, I've pretty well recovered.
Yes, I was going to say. I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
It's left me slightly deaf in one ear, and I still have problems with balance. But all things considered, it could have been worse.
Yes.
And what's more, when I had an MRI, they told me I've got no signs of Alzheimer's at all. So isn't that fantastic?
Oh, that is fantastic. That's a nice finding byproduct.
Bonus points.
Yeah.
It certainly was. Anyway, it took me quite a long time to get over that. And of course, about 2 months later, I had that in October, and then March, it was COVID. So what with one thing and another, although we bought our house, we did absolutely nothing with it until just recently. And in fact, 2 months ago, we started on it. So now it's got a hole in the roof with a tarpaulin over it, and it's busy being renovated.
Is that working? The tarp? Does the tarp actually prevent the rain, or have you tarped it enough?
Well, it doesn't seem too bad, actually. I mean, it doesn't rain a lot here.
Okay.
It does rain.
Okay.
And when it rains quite hard. But, I mean, it hasn't soaked everything.
Okay.
Or anything like that. So,
so you've given us a ton of information, which we will now dissect properly. When one searches for a home in Lisbon, which is the capital, it must be costly. Can you kind of give us a average price, and what did you buy for a fact?
Well, you have to make decisions about how you want to live, in my view. And we didn't want to live right in the middle and bustle of the city, where you've got, car noises and fumes and things like that. Because after all, we'd come here from being up a mountain in the French Alps, which is sort of the epitome of fresh air. So although pollution is not great here because, of course, we're right next to the Atlantic Ocean, so we get all the air the clean air that comes in from the ocean.
Okay.
But of course, there is the local pollution, which there is some, but it's not that bad compared with for example, living in the centre of London or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was one factor. So we wanted to look more on the outskirts of Lisbon, not right in the centre. I mean, some people love living in the centre of the city, but it wasn't for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out to a very popular area and had a look at that, called Cascais, which is more towards the ocean. Lisbon is slightly up the river because there's a big river called in Portuguese it's called the Tejo, but the rest of the world calls it the Tagus. Anyway, and it's a broad stretch of water. It's very wide. We looked at the western end, which is very popular with international visitors, and they have a lot of international schools there and things like that. So it's quite it's very popular. In fact, my best friend in the UK, her son has just moved here with his family.
Oh, nice.
But they live on the other side of the river, because what we did was we came to the south side of the river, which, like in London, is not so popular, but on the other hand, it is quieter. And we've actually bought a house in an old part where they're all old fishermen's cottages.
Oh,
so
sounds quaint.
A little old fisherman's cottage, and that's what we're busy doing up.
Okay, is it a single story or multiple floors?
It's basically got 3 floors, although they need a lot of support at the moment.
Yeah, with all your walking, be careful. That's my fear.
Yes, we're having a steel framework set up on the inside.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
And we're going to put in a light well, because they're quite dark little cottages, because they wanted to keep the houses cool. So they're very thick walls.
Mm-hmm.
So they've obviously lasted for quite a long time, but nevertheless, I think most of them could do with some internal support.
Wow. So are the costs fair? Like, what does pricing look like for a small?
Well, our house, the cost of it wasn't that great, really. It was we paid 160,000 euros.
Oh,
wow!
Well, that's great.
I haven't worked what that is in.
Yeah, I think the euro, as of last week, it was about $1.13 US.
The building costs, some items cost a lot because they have quite a high rate of VAT, which is the sales tax.
Yes.
They have quite a high rate of VAT, but it is possible to claim that back at the end of the construction period, apparently. But I haven't really got that far yet, because we've only been doing this for 2 months, and it's going to take about 8 months.
So your house is a fixer-upper. How much do you think a similar house that was ready to move in would cost?
Well, we looked at new houses at sort of inland from Lisbon, on the other side of the river from where we are, and you could get a really nice house at somewhere from about 250 to 400,000 euros, and it might even have a swimming pool.
Wow.
Okay.
So property here is relatively cheap compared with other places, particularly if you go a little way outside the big cities. However, prices are rising rapidly because many people are realizing the benefits of living in Portugal. It's a very friendly place, very welcoming to foreigners, because they have had, because of their history, they've had a big exit of sort of their Portuguese brain power, and so they actually want people to come and live here and spend money here, and support the economy that way. So they have very favourable visas, which I know is something that's of interest to them.
Yes. How does one acquire? Mm-hmm.
They have a number of different visa types. I mean, if you've got any kind of connection with Portuguese family, then it's relatively easy to get a visa. Mm-hmm. Also, if you're an EU member, you have the right to live here anyway.
Right.
Oh, true.
So, like there are quite a few French here, for example. In the south, there's quite a lot of Germans as well.
Wow.
Who some of them just have holiday houses, but some people have chosen to come and live here,
nice.
On a retired basis. Mm-hmm. We have some Swedish friends here who, have chosen to buy a flat here in a block, which is just up the road from us. We live in what's called the historic centre, which has got this little old-fashioned street. But around us, it's fairly sort of suburban-looking, really. We prefer the more of the quaint look, even though those houses are sort of small and dark, but nevertheless.
But it sounds nice. So the house is old, and in terms of installing or updating all of that, you have to bring in all these, I guess, electricians, right? If you're going to do all that updating, is that easy to find?
Oh, yes. I mean, well, we've been very fortunate and found a very nice builder who is a South African Portuguese. So he's bilingual. Mm. He's absolutely marvellous. So we were very fortunate to bump into him. Oh. So that was nice. And he's become a good friend, actually. So
I love that. Someone to call upon.
We really trust him.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, I have read horror stories about things that, where things are not done properly. And I have to say that my experience of the lawyers here has not been the best. I would have fired them if they'd have been my assistants, I can tell you. No attention to detail or anything like that. And of course, if you're not aware of the system, then it's difficult to spot.
Yes.
And how did you find your contractor?
Well, we just bumped into him a friend of ours who is British bumped into him in a cafe, and
so that was happenstance.
Yes, and then he started talking to him and found out that he was a builder, and then said, "Oh, I've got these friends and they've got a house, and I know that they want to do it up soon. Would you like to have a chat with them?" And so that's what happened.
Oh. So you didn't even with us.
Vetting.
I know, no vetting. We do so much research, but so far everything's working.
Right. So far everything's been fine. And what he said, he's been very straightforward and upfront about things. And he said, I don't connect all the electricity up because I'm not certified to do that. So I bring in somebody who does that.
Oh, okay.
And he does the same with the plumbing. And he's got a steel man who does the steel work, which we're starting to do.
General contractor. Okay.
So he's doing some of the work, but project managing it as well. So
sure. That's great.
Yeah.
That's more his role as a project manager rather than being the builder, if you see what I mean.
Yes, absolutely.
So we actually contract with the specialist, but he helps us find them and gets us different quotes and things like that. So it's more like he has more like a project management role, which works very well for us.
And what about renting? Do you know what the cost of renting in general is in Lisbon?
Yes. Well, I think if you want to move somewhere, you have to rent first, just to find out what it's like.
Yeah.
Whether you really like the area that you're proposing to live in and so on. And in fact, we started off by doing Airbnb, which is a common method,
Yes.
We'd heard that there was going to be a new block of flats built, and we'd seen them advertised before we came. And so we thought, well, we'll go and look at those. And we went to a property show in the UK, actually, and we met a few people and made appointments with them, and they took us to see various things. So we went out all in different areas of the country to have a look. So, for example, there's an area slightly to the north of Lisbon called the Silver Coast, and that's extremely popular with retirees from other parts of Europe. And we looked at a lovely house, which was, I think the asking price was, I mentioned, it was one of the ones with the swimming pool, and it was €295,000 they were asking.
Wow, that's
for a
great.
brand new house.
Wow.
The swimming pool.
And what city was that called? I couldn't hear you.
It wasn't in a city. It's in an area which is called the Silver Coast. But we didn't want to live in that way because we wanted to live near somewhere where we had access to the theatre, to the gallery, the art gallery,
the cultural,
bookshops, as you mentioned.
Oh,
and,
is it true only one person fits in there?
Yes, it is.
Oh my Lord!
Place. But they have other shops where you can.
And so is that why you didn't? I know a lot of expats end up going to the Algarve. Is that why you didn't?
Oh, I wouldn't. Well, I've been to the Algarve on holiday, and it's very much a holiday area. There are loads of golf courses, and if you like golf, it's brilliant. You know.
Okay.
But I am not a golf player, and neither is my husband. And we went there. We arrived when we first arrived in Europe on our boat. We stopped. Our first European stop was in Lagos, which is one of the towns on the south coast in the Algarve.
Okay.
Well, it was very convenient, but it wasn't the kind of place that we wanted to live.
Right.
Sure.
It's a thriving place, and very pleasant and so on, but it's not exactly, didn't offer the range of things that we wanted, which was things like access to cultural events and so on. I mean, After all, I've just told you about how, we've got our motorcycle club's Father Christmas parade just happening right outside the door,
And you know who'd be there, Gil?
Yes.
I would be there.
Yes, you would, Gene. That is so you. That is so you. So if we could go back a bit to, what about the cost of living, including the amenities and taxes and so forth? Yes.
Yeah. Well, we rather got.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent. Oh yes, rent.
Yes. Well, yeah. We rented a little studio flat. We did Airbnb, and then we rented a studio flat. In fact, in the road where we're living at the moment. We've moved a few hundred yards up the road because a studio flat was just not enough room for us to have, two people talking on the phone at the same time. And so we moved to this house, which has got 3 floors and is approximately, it's a little bit smaller than our house, which is another 200 meters up the road. So, we're just in the same road. So we feel part of the community here. Like, as I mentioned, we were just walking home. We decided to go out for lunch because it was so beautiful today. The sun was shining. So we sat in the sun and ate prawns, or at least I did. It was great. Anyway, as we walked home, our friend Esmeralda leaned over the balcony and said, you've got to come and see my son who's Father Christmas. So we know people here. We know, we have, I can't walk down the road without somebody saying hello and things like that. It's so really nice.
Yeah.
So what's the rent?
The rent here for us in the house is €900 a month.
Oh, wow, that's great.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Yes. We are on the south side of the river.
Right.
So if we want to go into Lisbon, we get the ferry. Costs about €2.50 to get the ferry. It takes 20 minutes.
Nice.
And you land virtually in the centre of Lisbon.
I'm sorry, that's €900 for a 3-bedroom, right?
No, it's for 3 floors. It's not actually 3 bedrooms because it has a very, very strange layout.
How many bedrooms?
Because a lot of the houses here do, because they were actually, mostly they were occupied with it. They just had one family per floor. Originally.
So you're living like a king and queen. You're on 3 stories for 900. So how many rooms are there?
Well, I'm on the top floor at the moment, and basically it's just one big room with a bathroom attached, which is quite
nice.
This in fact is our bedroom. It would have been originally. You can see that this house has been done up, and originally it would have been 3 small rooms.
Right.
That's how it would have been.
Right. I prefer.
And it would have been like that on every floor.
Okay. Oh, with the bathroom on every floor? Yes. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, in fact, the house that we have bought is divided into 2. So it has two
2 floors?
It had 2 bathrooms.
Okay.
So we're going to make an extra sort of powder room thing. So,
but in your house, you're going to be able to accommodate your guests and family, right? Because you're building the extra bathroom in the other rooms.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, I see.
So
Wonderful.
What we're doing is we're actually going to keep the ground floor as a sort of like a separate little flat, because it's 2 properties, but just in one house.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to keep that, and it's like the original studio flat that we stayed in to begin with.
So did you have to take title from 2 families? You said it's
no, because it had been somebody or other's house, because a lot of people bought the house and then rent out.
And when you rent, does it come with, I don't know where I heard this, does it come with appliances and all that, or did you have
Yes, in France it doesn't. When we rented in France, we had to buy an oven and a washing machine and a dishwasher, and bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, compared to what we're used to.
Yes, well, me too. I'd never come across that. It wasn't like that in Switzerland, and it wasn't like that in of all the other places that I have lived.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
Can you imagine? You live somewhere, you rent somewhere for 6 months, and then you move, and you have to take your refrigerator with you. I mean, it's so odd. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. They weren't built in.
All right, I just have a side question. So in parentheses, was the rent in France high?
Well,
I mean, I know it depends where you were.
The same. It was about the same, actually.
Yeah, I thought that. I mean, I've always heard that Paris is very expensive,
but everywhere else.
But outside Paris is much more reasonable. Is that correct?
Because I would like to live there for a few months. It is.
There are some places in the mountains which are very upmarket, and for example, we lived not far from a place called Megève, which was full of very bling shops and had a Swarovski Christmas tree.
Wow!
And was very much patronised by the Russians, because of course I was attuned to, because I was
right.
used to hearing Russian spoken, and
that's so interesting.
Could identify it when I heard it.
Right. Oh, interesting.
So,
in the rent, it's close to where you are now. Is the cost of electricity and those things?
No, you pay for those separately. Electricity costs a lot, in my view, in Portugal.
Such as what would you?
It's cheaper in France. Well, we pay. How much do we pay? We pay about 90 or 100 euros a month for electricity.
Oh, that is high. Okay.
That's euros, of course.
Of course, yes.
And, I would expect to, it is cheaper in the summer, but nevertheless, it's still on average, there have had months over 100, when it's really cold months. We don't get many of those, fortunately, but.
Oh, good.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah. We pay about 150 a month. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what about tax?
They have a very high VAT, which is the sales tax that I mentioned, because it's 23%, which is one of the best ones in Europe.
Okay, that is high. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Cars are very expensive here.
Okay.
We don't actually have a car here, partly because we can walk everywhere,
or
we can ride our bikes. We can get Uber, and if we're going into Lisbon, we go on the ferry. And there's a very good bus service.
So you don't need a car.
And to buy a car is really expensive. So because the car taxes on cars are very expensive. I don't actually know the details of taxes on cars because we don't have one. But
you have a boat.
Yeah, but our boat is in Italy, so it's not here.
Well, you have to pay for that.
Yeah, we certainly do. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, it costs a lot to have a boat.
Yeah. What about groceries? Where do you go for that?
There is an absolutely wonderful little store just around the corner. I mean, it must be 50 meters from where I'm here, 50 yards away. Literally around the corner. And it's run by a local family. It's in a converted house. I'm perpetually amazed at how much they fit in there.
Wow.
if you want sort of like 6 different kinds of flour, you can get it.
Whoa, nice.
You know, it's just extraordinary, and they're so lovely, and they say things to me like, I went in there the other day and I was buying a bottle of wine for my husband. the girl that she's the daughter of the family. She said to me, I picked one up, and she said, "No, he prefers that one."
Oh, that's so funny.
Oh, so you switched and you bought the other.
Yes.
That is so funny.
Oh, that is funny. Interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're such a lovely family, and they, you know, it's such a delight and pleasure to go in there.
I'd love to shop in a place like that.
We do have a supermarket, a brand called Lidl, and then
we have that here.
Yeah,
you have Lidl there, do you? Oh,
yeah.
No, it just recently, in the last
year or so.
Yeah,
right. Okay, yes. I didn't know they'd expanded.
Well, they're expanding. Yeah, there's articles about how they're expanding, and
yes, there's 2 that could sort of go together. There's
Aldi,
Lidl, and Aldi. That's it. And they made a big difference in the UK. About 15 years ago now. Okay. When they suddenly appeared and sort of put a bit of a rocket up the English.
Yes, I'll say
supermarkets.
Okay. So they're fairly priced, those stores.
Yeah, they're inexpensive, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but you're never quite sure whether they're going to have something in or not.
Exactly. So I don't really shop there.
You buy it when you see it, and that's it.
Right.
And then about a quarter of an hour bus ride, and the buses are pretty frequent. Or else we go with an Uber or something. We don't normally go with our bikes because when we go down to a big supermarket, just like a hypermarket called Continente, we're tending to want to do a big shop so that to stock up on various things.
Right.
That we can't necessarily get locally. So, like the brand of coffee that we like, or something like that, which is from Timor-Leste. Lovely coffee they do, Timor-Leste.
Oh, that's so funny.
That is funny.
Timor-Leste again.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, you can always purchase items, I suppose, from Amazon, right? Or places that are online.
Yes, we can. Although Portugal doesn't have its own Amazon, it shares with Spain. They do it in 2 languages.
Okay.
So what I do, if I'm looking for presents, because it's much easier to use Amazon for presents when you all live in different countries. And going back to Brexit,
yes,
we've just introduced a scheme of in Portugal of importing stuff. So parcels to me. Well, I ordered some wool from a place because I like knitting, and I ordered some wool and knitted a jumper for a friend of mine. And the wool didn't come for weeks and weeks. And I kept thinking, where is it? What's happened to it? And so on. And it turned out that it had been eventually what I thought it had been caught in this new system that they've got for customs clearance, where you have to, you often have to pay duty on something. So, for example, my favourite tea bags, I can't get from that way anymore. But I've just discovered Spain has started to stock the ones that I like, which are Yorkshire tea bags. So I can actually now get them, but there was an interim of some months when I could not get them, which was, dire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are the little pleasures in life.
Yes, I know.
I totally agree.
Anyway.
I wish the audience could see her face now. So funny. You are so funny. So, all right. So you can do everything by foot, which is good. You can either, if you're buying a lot, like you say, stocking up, you can take an Uber. Otherwise, there's plenty of buses, or if you had to go into the city, ferry, and everything's accessible.
You can walk to a coffee or tea shop, right?
Oh, yes. And there's marvelous.
Tell.
There's a marvelous little cafe around the corner, which we affectionately named the Kremlin because it has some other name totally. Some name about, it's called something like letters and cutlery or something like that. But anyway,
Gremlin.
Or literature and cutleries.
That's
anyway,
cute.
The thing is that it's in a building that where the building is actually owned by the local Communist Party, and
Wow.
And the cafe is run by a very capitalist guy who's extremely nice. As a franchise, he just rents the space and so on. Anyway, in fact, at one time, to get to the party upstairs, you had to go into the cafe and up the stairs to get to it. But they've now separated it. They have separate entrances. So, but nevertheless, we just thought this was so funny when we first arrived that we were going to have coffee in the Communist Party headquarters.
Oh my Lord! And so, what do you get? Like little biscottis, or no, not biscottis.
No, the cafe isn't anything to do with the communist.
No. I know. But I mean, in the cafe, do you get what are you able to get? Is it expensive? Is it like Starbucks?
Oh no, coffee costs. I think it costs if you just get an ordinary little espresso, which is because what people drink in Europe. You don't get the big buckets of Starbucks.
Well, what does one trip cost you? I'm trying to get a sense.
That costs you 60 cents.
Oh, okay. Here it'd be $6. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's ridiculous. Yes,
that's because you haven't got a Starbucks, you see.
Yeah. And you started talking about visas. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, there are a number of different types, but the type that we came on was what's called a non-habitual residency. Non-habitual residency is aimed primarily at retirees, but you don't have to be a retiree. You could be an early retirer if you wanted. But basically, it's for people who do not earn their income in Portugal, but have their income comes in from the outside.
Okay.
And originally, the deal was, when we first signed up for it, was that you didn't pay any tax on any pensions, only on any money that you earned in Portugal.
Oh.
But unfortunately, the European courts decided that this was not fair on the rest of the community, and they ruled that there had to be some kind of taxation. So now we pay 10% on pensions.
10% on pensions. Okay.
So that's
from anywhere.
Yes. Now, we got into that as European citizens because we managed to get in before the UK actually left the European Union. So if you are not a European Union citizen, then there are two other options.
So talk to us about, in terms of your location, where is the nearest international airport?
It takes about an hour to get there. We go on the ferry across the water, or we get an Uber straight there. An Uber straight there takes about 35-40 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And that was, it would take about just over an hour to get there on if we went by public transport.
All right. And can you get direct flights out of there to?
Yes, there are lots of direct flights to.
All over.
Several a day to the UK, for example. I recently I ventured out on an aeroplane in October and went to France to see my children. But I actually flew to Geneva, which is in Switzerland, because that happens to be the nearest airport.
Okay.
So no problems at all.
Okay. Are all your children in France?
No. My son and his family live there. Okay. My daughter and her family and Ian's two children live in the UK in near London. Or in London, near London.
All right. So that's not that far for you. I mean, to me, Europeans travel all over Europe nonstop all the time. Let's go back to healthcare for a moment. Can you get a primary care physician nearby, or what's the scene like?
Yes, you can. We have a friend who's been here for a bit longer than us, and he has got a family doctor. We have found it very difficult to get a family doctor, but as such, but we what we did do is we managed to get an insurance which pays half of all the fees of anything. And it's not going to change the cost of that. If you provided that you took it out before the age of 75, they just, if you keep paying it, it doesn't change. So you don't, it's not going to get.
What are the costs? What are the costs associated? It's private insurance.
For the two of us, it costs €98 a month.
Oh,
that's
okay.
nothing, yeah.
Oh, that's great. For two. Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's private.
That's private.
Private insurance. Okay.
But, it's quite easy to work together the state system and the private system. But we have found it quite difficult to get a family doctor.
If you need, let's say, I don't know, something comes up and you're not sure how you feel, what do you do?
Well, a friend of ours told us about this local private medical practice, a clinic. And when I was ill, because we didn't quite know what to do, we went there. We just went there.
Yeah.
And to begin with, and said, please, can somebody see us? And somebody saw us straight away because they could see that I was looking terrible. And and then we got I got funneled off to hospital. So that was, that worked out very nicely. So actually we use that clinic now the whole time, and we know them. And so, for example, yesterday, was it yesterday? No, the day before, I went to the dentist, which is part of the same thing.
Okay.
Just for a checkup.
Okay.
And I also picked up a prescription for my husband. Mm-hmm. And I walked in, and there was a lady there who I didn't recollect having seen her before. Anyway, she looked up at me and said, "Oh, you've come for your husband's prescription."
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I know. We are a bit strange because we're foreigners. I mean, there aren't that many foreigners on this side of the river.
Oh, which is nice, right?
Yes. I mean, that was something we didn't, some people just want to live in the international community. Mm-hmm, and I like access to it, which we have, because all we've got to do is hop on the ferry and off we go. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I like to be in the Portuguese community.
Yes. Okay. So if there's a need, you are close contact to the hospital.
Yes. The hospital is a bit of a trip away. It's about 25 minutes in a car.
All right. But you don't have to take a ferry or.
No, we don't. No. There's one on this side.
Okay.
The clinic is not very far away.
And a pharmacy is also in...
Pharmacy around the corner, literally.
Oh, wonderful. So you can get all the other stuff there.
There's a closer one, but it's not open all the time. The one that's around the corner... sorry, I'm waving my arms around.
You're right. So around the corner.
If I turn right, go to that pharmacy, it's open 24 hours a day. If I go to the smaller one, which is to the left, it's only open at certain times. So I tend to go to the 24-hour one because I don't have to think about what time it's open.
Right, exactly. Okay.
What about the federal health care? How do you qualify for that? And is the federal health care good? The government health care, I should say.
Yes, public health care. But the way that we qualified was that we just went along to the centre, the administrative centre, which is the centre that we would go to for a family doctor if we wanted one, if we used one. As I've mentioned, we in fact tend not to, but we could go there. We haven't got a named doctor, but we could just go and see a doctor. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's the state system. So we registered there. So you get a number, and then, for example, at the pharmacy, you register your number, and then when you want a prescription, they send you the prescription on your phone, and you take it to the pharmacy and show them the phone message, and they type it into their system, and they can pull it up from the state system. So it works very well. Mm-hmm. It's very easy.
It sounds efficient. Yeah.
And sometimes I think they're a little bit slow off the mark here. But on the other hand, for example, with the vaccinations for COVID, as an example, Portugal has got the highest rate of vaccination in the whole of Europe.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
And they were slow starting, but once they got going, they just overtook everyone else. They just did it. And we're all now about to have our boosters. Mm-hmm. Ian's appointment is on the 14th, and because I'm a little bit younger than him, I haven't been sent one yet. But actually, I'm just going to go along with him because I reckon if I turn up with him, they'll give me one.
Yeah,
right.
That's how it is here.
Because you could only have the booster after a certain date, which was in fact is today. But we're going on Tuesday, so
Sure,
I don't see it as being a problem because they tell you to do that, to just turn up. The digital nomad group is one of the biggest in Europe. It's got about 10,000 members.
Wow!
Because Lisbon is a very lively cultural city, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to live within, easy reach.
Right.
And in fact, when we first arrived and before all these COVID and everything else nasty happened, we would go quite regularly to the digital nomad events, and it was great fun. They'd have like comedy evenings and talks about this, that, and the other, and they're a fantastic group. Mm-hmm. And we made some good friends doing that. So it was easy to make friends, but that was sort of the international community.
Okay, so the Lisbon Digital Nomads, it's a meetup group. All right, so I see. So people sign up and then you meet each other. Oh, that's wonderful.
What about so you're learning Portuguese? Yeah. How important is do you need to know Portuguese to get around in the city?
Well, I think you need to know a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, as I said, I've lived in lots of different places, and I've always tried to learn the local language wherever I've been. And because I think it's just courteous.
Yes.
And the other thing is that people are much nicer to you if you make an effort to speak their language.
Right.
So, I always try to do that. But it is perfectly possible to live here without speaking a word of it. My husband does, for example.
and how far...
What he does is he says to me, he asks me, he knows some words.
Okay.
And how are you learning? You're learning, do you have a teacher? How are you learning?
No, I don't, because by the time I sort of settled down here to really learn, COVID came along, and I used Duolingo. I've used other systems for other languages, like Busu. I don't know if you know Busu. Busu is quite fun because you get to talk to. You can sort of set up chats with people all over the place. And
is that an app?
Yes, it's like Duolingo, but it's
got it.
Busu is a very obscure language which is only spoken by about 10 people or something. So
what?
That's the name of the app.
It's the name of the app, though. Yeah, BUSUU. But I wasn't learning Busu. I used the Busu app to learn whatever it was.
Okay. I just want to go back a moment because I was very interested in when we were talking about public health care, in case we decide to live in Portugal for a short time, Gene, since I have all these allergies and skin issues and what have you.
Yeah.
So I found that if you are living in Portugal under the Golden Visa or the D7 visa, you can benefit from the Portugal National Health Service once you've registered. Otherwise, you can purchase the private health. Of course, that's true for any country. Okay, so and it says here, I found online that expats will find that Portugal has an extensive tax-funded public healthcare system. And the most essential medical services are available free of charge. And otherwise, if it's non-essential, you pay a small copay. So this is good to know. This is good to know for everyone.
Yes, and I suppose that coming from the UK, in the UK, the National Health Service in the UK, you don't pay. Well, you kind of do, but indirectly, you pay through a tax. But for the user, there's no payment.
Right.
And for pharmacy, pharmaceuticals, drugs, or whatever you need, there's a small payment.
Right.
But it's not necessarily the cost of the drugs. It's just a contribution.
Right.
I'm kind of accustomed to that system.
Sure.
And actually, the Portuguese one is extremely similar. So when I was ill and I had to go off to the hospital and I had, echograms and
Yes.
an MRI and blah, blah, blah. I didn't have to pay.
Wow. Now that's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, it didn't cross your mind to, I think I have to go back home, or whatever homeland is to you, because, you've traveled so much. I think in general, not to go off topic, but this is so important. It's the United States. It's always on our minds, healthcare, because it's so expensive here and you can't get away from it. So, but outside of all the interviews we've conducted, healthcare just seems to be such a right, and most places don't have the issues that we have. So we always make it the, front of mind, if you will.
You're absolutely right. And the thing is that I think a lot of foreigners find the American attitude towards healthcare absolutely extraordinary.
Yes,
because,
it's horrible.
It's mad.
It is.
You pay so much. And I actually have some British friends who are doctors in America. And their insurance policies cost the earth because you've got this ridiculous system about
horrible.
payments. Mm-hmm. Which, it's just crazy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we literally cannot see certain doctors because, we can, but we would have to pay an arm and a leg.
Yeah, certain doctors don't take any insurance.
Right. Like recently I've had, some bouts of anxiety and someone said, you have to contact a psychiatrist if you want a certain medicine. And so I looked up, certain ones that were decent. And we certainly have 1,000,001 physicians here nearby, but they many of them started at $500 an hour. Okay. Yeah. $500 an hour for what? It's just astonishing. Okay. All right. Let me stop because I can go on forever about healthcare. Let's go to a fun topic. Tell us about all the cultural activities that you started to go into. Tell us about those things.
Yeah, because Lisbon's supposed to be such a fun place and great culture. Yeah, tell us a little about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think that I've made the most of it, and that's partly because of COVID.
Yeah,
well, it is because of COVID. Because really, since we've been here full time, either I was ill or there's been COVID. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And since I fall into the vulnerable group, I'm not very keen on doing too much. However, there are some absolutely wonderful places. There's the Gulbenkian Museum, which I absolutely loved. They've got a modern part and an ancient part, and it's just great with a lovely tea room and beautiful gardens, and it's a delight to go to, especially in the summer. So that's one place. I recently had some American visitors, and we went to the Museum of Tiles because one of the features of Portugal is that their houses are made of a lot of sandy material, and so what they do is they put tiles on the outside of the house, and they are influenced by the Moorish invasions that they had, in the Middle Ages and things. And so they tend to be sort of like flower motifs or maybe boats or things like that, And they're absolutely beautiful. And they're wonderful colours. And, it's just great. And that sort of desire for colour and art and sort of beauty in the streets is now carried on by this extremely lively street art movement. And when my daughter came to see me at the beginning of October, we went on a street art tour, which was just wonderful. I mean, I hadn't really appreciated, okay, you look at it and you think graffiti or whatever, but actually some of the paintings really are works of art.
Yes, absolutely.
And somebody took us round and showed us this and, beautiful drawings of older people in one area, which I hadn't seen before. And I thought they were marvellous. In fact, I took pictures of lots of them, and I've been meaning to put them sort of like one by one on my Instagram and haven't done it yet. And I need to do that.
Yeah, I can't wait to see those.
Prompted me.
And what about the street? A lot of the streets in the squares have the black and white tiles. They look beautiful. How is that?
Yeah. Well, they have this technique which of paving, which is like it's sort of like the Roman mosaics, but it's little chips of stone, and they're specialist people who know how to do it. And but when we first moved here, they were busy redoing our little street along where we are. Our street is actually, people can park cars, but it's not actually a through road. So, you can't, it's not sort of very busy. And they were redoing it, and they were relaying the drains for the rainwater and so on. And it's the skill of sort of setting all these little pieces of stone into place and making this wonderful paving.
Right.
And that's everywhere. I have to say it's a bit slippery when it's wet. So you have to be a tiny bit careful with it.
Okay,
but it's fantastic. It's lovely.
Yeah, they look so cool.
And in some areas they have they do it like in the square called Rossio Square outside one of the big stations.
Mm-hmm.
They have it doing, it looks like sort of waves. It's sort of like wavy lines, and it's black and white done in a pattern.
Nice.
A lot of the ordinary streets are just sort of random, mostly white with bits of black in it. But there it's done in an actual pattern of waves, and you see that in various places. So when I mentioned that we'd gone to the Silver Coast, which is north of Lisbon, and there were places on the beach which had the same pattern along their sort of promenade where you walk along. Just
how far
fabulous.
Is that to get to the beach?
The beach here. Well, the beach from where there is a small beach in a bay. It's about 50 meters from the house.
Wow!
It's the other side of other side of the shop.
Okay,
right, 300 or 400 meters to my left.
Okay,
is the big bay itself. It's an inland bay.
Oh, nice.
There's some land, and then there's the very long beaches which go for miles and miles and miles.
Oh, so you have easy access. Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. And what about theaters? And let's say I wanted to take courses to learn pottery, or are those opportunities available?
Yes, there are. The same sort of organization that did the street art tour does. You can do a tile making course if you want to.
Nice.
We did a 1 day course on doing tile making. So we actually have some tiles that we made and coloured ourselves.
Cool.
Oh, nice.
That was really fun. Yes, I'd recommend that to everyone. And actually, the Museum of Tiles is just gorgeous. It's sort of attached to a very old church that had been a convent at one point as well, and it's just amazing, just lovely to see mostly pictures of Saint Francis and figures like that. But so a lot of the art originally was either Moorish based, so it was based on flower motifs and leaves and patterns, or else it was religious and religious scenes. It tends to be like that, but just so incredibly beautifully done. And the modern there's a modern element now, which is very imaginative and has a lot to offer.
Sure.
We're thinking that maybe sometime we might try and do something somewhere in our house, have some feature that is based on this kind of
nice
thing, because it would be very easy to go find somebody who makes tiles.
Right.
Do that. I mean, there's a street where there's quite a few people.
Sure.
Little tiny workshops that you can go
might
into.
be. Is it difficult to ride a bike around there? Because I heard you mention you bicycle.
Yes, no, it's easy to ride a bike.
The tiles and the pavement and all that.
Yes, it's easy. It's easy to ride. I don't think the Portuguese are the best drivers in the world, but
isn't Lisbon hilly?
Well, I was going to say, on our side, it's easier than it is on the Lisbon side, because Lisbon has lots of hills.
Okay.
So, but there are loads and loads of those
electric bikes,
electric scooters that you can get on electric bikes, and you can rent them really easily. And you just do it with your phone, so you can pick them up anywhere and just leave them somewhere. You know, you don't even have to take them back to where you got them from.
Oh, wow. Well, so, yes, like the city bikes in New York. You pick it up and you drop it off somewhere else.
Talking about getting places, I just want to ask you quickly about the yellow trams, what we call trolley cars.
Yes.
Do people use them to get around, or is it just more for tourists?
Well, the people use them to get around, but they have there is one particular line, which is the number 28, which is the old one, and that is just one car, and it follows it to. Yes, ordinary people get on it because it follows a certain route, and if you want to go on that route, you get on it if it comes along.
Okay.
It's so cool looking. Yeah, it's beautiful.
But tourists go on it. I mean, I've been on it a couple of times. When we were here on our own, we went on it. We did the whole way round. All the way round, and it's great because it gives you. It's like taking a tour around Lisbon, you know.
Oh,
it takes you up past the castle and
now is that part of the public? Is that free or is there a pass?
No, it's not free. But it costs. We buy a card and we just.
It's reasonably priced.
It's about €2 or €3. I'm not quite sure per trip.
I'm trying to get an idea,
but you know, it's really not expensive. And the metro, you use the same card for the metro, and we in fact use the same card for the ferry as well.
Okay.
Oh wow. Good.
So going back a moment to the theater. And are there musical venues that you take advantage?
Yes, there are. We haven't really been to those.
Sure. With COVID.
I have to say, although I really want to, because in fact, one of my old school friends, her niece, is a ballerina. She has recently joined the ballet company here in Lisbon, but I haven't made contact with her. I need to do that.
Yeah.
I'd really love to go and see her just because she's my friend's niece.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
At the moment, we're not really going into events like that because of COVID.
Right.
Because as I said, we do feel vulnerable.
I know. And you know, these variants that are popping up, they're just frightening. So stay put. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So I do miss that though, because, you know, in various places I've lived, I've had access to fantastic music. I mean, in Russia, it was amazing. I actually lived looking over one of the opera houses. And so like on Saturday morning, I could decide, I think I'll go to the opera this afternoon. And I could run downstairs and see if they had because there was just one ticket quite often, you know. You've got one ticket somewhere, you know. Yes, we have got one ticket, you know. No, we haven't, but come back at 4:00 and we probably will have. So, you know. And then I run in and it would cost, I don't know, $7 or something for some fantastic performance.
No, I'm sure it was fantastic, but another opera person, Gil. I can't take all these opera people. Where are all these opera people coming from?
My husband does not fancy.
I don't get the opera.
And all right, Gene, cut it out. Okay.
It's not for everybody, but you know.
Thank you. You're very respectful.
Stop it.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Enough of you. So, Rosemary, we have covered an abundant amount of information, and you are so lovely, and I'm so glad to have met you. Seriously, I could go on and on. Do you have any words of wisdom for those interested in embarking? I don't want to say a similar path because many of us can't travel to 13 countries at this point, but what it seems that you're very happy to have chosen Lisbon, you and Ian. What advice do you have, if any, for our listeners about retiring somewhere else?
Well, I think it's just such a wonderful life experience to live in another country, to have access to a different culture. The pain of learning another language is actually extremely rewarding once you've got over the pain. But it's like learning anything, isn't it? And it's always painful to get out of your comfort zone. But then once you've done it, you feel elated, and it's an amazing life experience. I recognise that it's not for everybody, but it's still worth it.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you don't want to go permanently, because I think a lot of the fear is, what happens to me if, for example, I fall really sick, or what happens if, there's an emergency and my children need me, or blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
If I've committed all my assets to some other place, then that's the difficulty. But if you go somewhere, if you rent out your own house and you try living somewhere else, I think that's a fantastic life experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn what you don't like then, and you learn the places that you do like.
Right.
And you see different ways of life, and you experience different food. And some people don't they prefer things to be routine and the same, and that they know where they are and they're within their comfort zone and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
But my view is that I wouldn't have missed out on the experiences that I've had.
Wow.
just because I've gained so much from it and met so many different people, and of such an extraordinary, I've got Ukrainian friends and Georgian friends, not the Republic of Georgia, that is not
right.
Georgia, wherever. I don't know anybody from Georgia in the US.
we assume that,
friends all over, and it's really has been my life ambition, is because I was always keen on learning languages, and I just wanted to travel and communicate with the other people, and that's what I've managed to achieve. I feel very lucky that I've had the chances to do that.
Yes.
I know that not everybody has the chances or has the ability to make the life choices in certain times of your life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate and managed to do what I had wanted to do. So, and it's been so rewarding. I feel very blessed that I've been able to do that. So, I would advise you, go,
yes.
have fun. If you don't enjoy it, leave.
Right. Exactly. No one is holding you hostage.
No.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But you have to organize your money in a way that makes it practical for you. Because, it's not the cheapest way to live necessarily, because you always need to have an emergency fund to get back to wherever.
Right.
Wow, that was an inspiring comment, Rosemary. And just for our audience out there, I'll tell you, Rosemary has this wonderful smile. She lights up the room, and you just want to say, "Oh yeah, I want to hang out with her."
Yes,
right, Gil?
Yes, absolutely. And you can live a lot of it on her blog and her writings and future writings that she's mentioned earlier that we didn't delve into here. We must stay in touch.
I'd love to. If you ever come to Portugal, if you come next summer, maybe the house will be done.
Watch out what you wish for, Rosemary.
Okay. Absolutely. And if you happen to come to Brooklyn, I don't see why, but your life is just so much more exciting. We are here for you.
That's lovely. It's been really great. And thank you so much for inviting me to come along. And it's been great to meet you. And I've enjoyed listening to your podcast too.
Thank you so
much.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Really
thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you know someone who's relocated for retirement and wishes to share their story with us, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is gg@retirethere.com. Our website is retirethere.com, and you may follow us on Twitter @retirethere_. Now, if you've liked our show, please subscribe and rate it in Apple Podcasts. In the meantime, be well.